Summers ago, on a trail I'd run dozens of times before. It was a loop, about 8 miles through state forest land. Most of it was shaded and relatively flat. I knew every turn, every marker, every steep section. That morning, I started early, around 6:30 a.m. The parking lot was empty when I arrived. I stretched for a few minutes, locked my valuables in the trunk, and headed out. The first 3 miles were perfect. Cool air, quiet woods, just my footsteps and breathing. I was making good time. Around mile 4, I passed a man walking the opposite direction. He was older, maybe 60s, wearing khaki pants and a button-up shirt. Not typical hiking clothes. He had no backpack, no water bottle, nothing. "Morning," I said as I passed. He didn't respond, just watched me go by. I thought it was rude, but didn't dwell on it. People are weird sometimes. I kept running. About a mile later, the trail curved around a steep hillside. The drop-off on one side was maybe 30 feet down into a rocky stream bed. That's where I saw him again. The same man, same clothes, standing on the trail ahead of me. I slowed to a walk, confused. There was no way he could have gotten ahead of me. I'd been running. He'd been walking the opposite direction, and there were no shortcuts or connecting trails in this section. "Excuse me," I said, breathing hard. "Did you turn around?" He stared at me. His face was completely blank. "I need to get by," I said. He didn't move. I stepped to the side to go around him. He shifted to block me. My heart rate, already elevated from running, started pounding harder. "What are you doing?" I asked. He smiled. It was slow and deliberate. His teeth were yellow. I took a step back. He took a step forward. I turned and ran the other direction, back the way I'd come. I didn't look behind me for the first 30 seconds. When I did, he was following. Not running, just walking fast with long strides. I sprinted harder. My lungs burned. The trail was uneven and I nearly twisted my ankle on a root. When I looked back again, he was closer, still just walking, but somehow keeping pace. I ran for another mile before I had to stop and catch my breath. I bent over, hands on my knees, gasping. When I looked up, he was standing 20 feet away. He hadn't broken a sweat, wasn't even breathing hard. "Leave me alone!" I screamed. He tilted his head, like he was considering something. Then he started walking toward me again. I ran. This time I left the trail completely, crashing through the underbrush. Branches scratched my arms and face. I didn't care. I just needed to get away. I ran downhill toward where I thought the road might be. I could hear him behind me, still walking, breaking branches as he followed. After what felt like forever, I burst out onto a narrow, paved road. I didn't recognize it, but I didn't care. I ran down the middle of it until I saw a house. I pounded on the door. An elderly woman answered. "Please help me," I gasped. "Someone's chasing me." She let me inside and locked the door. I looked out the window, terrified I'd see him emerging from the trees. Nothing. The woman called the police. They came and searched the woods, found nothing. They drove me back to the trailhead to get my car. It was fine. Everything was exactly as I'd left it. I never ran that trail again. But sometimes when I'm running anywhere now, I get this feeling like someone's behind me, matching my pace. I always look. So far, no one's ever there. I went on a week-long solo kayaking trip down a river in northern Minnesota 3 years ago. It was late August, the river was calm, the weather was good, and I'd planned my campsites in advance. I had a satellite messenger for emergencies and enough food for 10 days just to be safe. The first 2 days were exactly what I needed. Peaceful paddling, good fishing, and campsites with nobody else around. On the 3rd day, I noticed another kayaker. They were far behind me, just a small dot on the water. I couldn't tell if it was a man or woman, but they seemed to be keeping a steady pace. I didn't think much of it. The river was popular enough that seeing other paddlers wasn't unusual. That night, I set up camp on a sandy bank. I built a small fire and cooked dinner as the sun went down. Around 9 p.m., I heard a kayak scraping against the shore downstream. I stood up and looked. About 100 yards away, someone was pulling their kayak up onto the bank. "Hey!" I called out. "You camping here too?" No response. I watched them for a minute. They didn't set up a tent, didn't start a fire, just sat there in the dark. It felt strange, but I tried to ignore it. I went into my tent and zipped it shut. I woke up sometime in the middle of the night. My watch said 3:17 a.m. I heard something outside. Footsteps on the sand, slow and deliberate. They circled my tent, once, then twice. I held my breath, not moving. The footsteps stopped right outside my tent door. I could see a shadow through the fabric. Someone standing there. "Hello?" I said quietly. No answer. "Can I help you?" The shadow moved away. I heard footsteps retreating toward the water. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I packed up quickly and got back on the river. I paddled hard, trying to put distance between myself and whoever that was. By midday, I stopped on a rocky outcrop to rest and eat lunch. The river behind me was empty. I started to relax, thinking maybe they'd camped there and weren't actually following me. Then I saw the kayak, the same one from last night, coming around the bend. I got back in my kayak and kept paddling. I didn't stop for the rest of the day, even when my shoulders started to ache. That night, I picked a campsite on a small island in the middle of the river. It was harder to access, but I figured it would be safer. I set up my tent and didn't build a fire. I just wanted to be invisible. Around midnight, I heard splashing. Someone was wading across the shallow water toward the island. I grabbed my satellite messenger and pressed the SOS button. The splashing got closer. I could hear breathing, heavy and labored. I unzipped my tent and looked out. A figure was standing at the edge of the island, water dripping from their legs. They were just standing there, watching my tent. I didn't say anything, neither did they. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. Finally, they turned and waded back across the river. I sat awake until sunrise, satellite messenger in my hand. A rescue team found me the next morning. I told them everything. They searched the river but never found the other kayaker. I sold my kayak a month later. I still can't sleep if I hear water moving. Last fall, I drove out to Colorado to do some dispersed camping in the national forest. I just bought a small camper trailer and wanted to test it out somewhere remote. I found a spot on public land, miles from the nearest paved road. Perfect. The drive in was rough, dirt roads full of ruts and rocks. It took me 2 hours to cover 10 miles, but when I finally found a clearing to set up, it was worth it. Mountains on all sides, aspens turning gold, complete silence. I backed the trailer into position and got set up before dark, made dinner on my camp stove and sat outside watching the stars come out. Around 10 p.m., I heard an engine. Headlights appeared in the trees, coming up the same road I'd used. A truck pulled into the clearing and parked about 50 feet from my trailer. An older model pickup, beat to hell, covered in mud. The engine shut off. Nobody got out. I waited. Still nothing. After 5 minutes, I walked over. "Hey," I called out. "You camping here too?" The driver's window rolled down slowly. A man looked out. Late 40s, unshaven, baseball cap pulled low. "Just passing through," he said. "Okay," I said. "I'm set up over there if you need anything." He nodded and rolled the window back up. I went back to my trailer feeling uneasy. If he was just passing through, Why did he park? 20 minutes later, his truck was still there, engine off, lights off. I couldn't tell if anyone was inside. I locked my trailer door and tried to sleep. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of someone trying my door handle. I sat up fast. The handle rattled again. Someone was definitely trying to get in. "I called the cops," I yelled. That was a lie. I had no cell service. The rattling stopped. I heard footsteps walking around my trailer, slow circles like they were looking for another way in. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it at the window. I could see a shape moving outside. "Get the fuck away!" I screamed. The footsteps stopped. Then I heard truck doors opening and closing. An engine started. I looked out the window. The pickup was still there, but now another vehicle had arrived. A sedan, headlights off. 2 people got out. They stood between the vehicles, talking. I couldn't hear what they were saying. They both turned and looked at my trailer. That's when I knew I had to leave. I climbed into the driver's seat and started the engine. I didn't bother unhinging properly, didn't put away my camp chairs or anything. I just drove. The dirt road was terrifying in the dark. I could barely see. My trailer bounced and swayed behind me. In my rearview mirror, I saw headlights following. I drove faster, probably too fast for the conditions. I didn't care. I just needed to get to the main road. The headlights stayed with me for miles. Every time I'd slow down for a rough patch, they'd get closer. Finally, I hit pavement. I floored it. The headlights fell back and eventually disappeared. I drove straight to a gas station in the nearest town. I sat in the parking lot until sunrise, doors locked, too scared to sleep. When I checked my trailer in the morning, I found something wedged in the doorframe. A note, written on torn cardboard in shaky handwriting. "Next time, don't run." I sold the trailer 2 weeks later. I don't do dispersed camping anymore, and I never go anywhere remote alone.